Well, for me, I think this is actually one of my first podcasts that I've been on in the Ottr Culture thing, apart from our intro. You guys did.
Oh yeah, you mixed the last one, didn't you?
Yes.
Oh really?
And then Miles, this is actually going to be your first real podcast.
Yeah, first real one. The last one was intro. So
yeah. How's it feel to be on the actual podcast this time, Miles?
yeah, that's all right. I have much more to say really. Yeah, should be pretty good.
Nice. In this podcast, we are going to be talking about that kind of the creative process, being a creative in the world of creativeness.
Yes, sir.
We're going to talk about fashion because I think that's something we all kind of share a passion for. The passion for, wow.
Passion for
Fashion,
fashion.
bars. Come on.
Talk about collabs in the world of fashion, and then also about kind of nostalgic feels, what's been happening recently. Miles, you were talking about shows that have come back that you used to enjoy as a young lad.
Yeah.
Give me a hint on one of those.
Not a young lad, but stuff I've been watching for the last couple years have came back. Hip hop related.
Nice. Cool. Well, that's coming later on in the podcast, but for now, it's all about the creativeness. Max,
Let's go.
how do you feel being a creative in this world? Do you think you were born to be creative, or was it something that you kind of fell into?
I think I fell into creative because I wasn't academic.
Yeah.
And because I wasn't academic, it was sort of natural to be like, okay, let's try stuff that doesn't involve numbers and doesn't involve words. It was kind of like, oh, Max can't do maths and Max can't really do English that well, so let's just give him some stuff and just see what he does. And I feel like that's just really where creativity sort of comes from. It's just kind of doing stuff that isn't academic and just seeing what you can make of it.
Mm-hmm. Same for you, Miles?
Yeah, pretty much. Went through school, I kind of really struggled with maths and English, so
Yeah.
any artistic subjects I was drawn towards, and same with throughout college, just kind of pushed that sort of way.
Yeah. It is funny, isn't it? I guess in school, and it's something that they'll kind of push you towards, is you're either a sports person or you're really really academic. I never really felt like the art side was something that they pushed too much. I think unless you were a really good illustrator or you were really good with painting, then there was never really a side to creativeness like that.
And stuff with graphic design, for example, you don't necessarily need to be good at drawing. I'm pretty mid, I'm not great, where I've got friends who are really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like schools and stuff didn't really harness that, and especially as a young person, that's kind of quite shuts you down really, whereas you can do it. Most people can be good at creative stuff. It's kind of just training like anything else.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's difficult because if you think about it, the industry that we work in now has really only come about in the last, 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
Technically.
Yeah.
Obviously, filmmaking and photography has been around a lot longer than that, but I'd argue the industry that we, specifically us three, work in has only been around for 10, 15 years. So going back to the time at school, being a creative wasn't really something that would earn you money as such, or unless you're in that top tier, mm-hmm. or unless you've been doing it for a long time, it could be argued that it was a less sustainable job role.
Yeah.
So I could see kind of why they would want, if they'd want you to focus on being academic and learning numbers and all that stuff, so you could be more sort of suited to a job market.
A real job.
But now the job market is just
so broad.
You can do literally anything.
Yeah.
And there's it wasn't until I left college really, I started looking at intermedia jobs that I realised I thought that there was only a handful of media sort of roles, but there are just thousands and thousands and thousands of roles that people can do.
Mm. I don't know about you guys, but I remember growing up and I never really felt like there was many creative people around me either. I kind of, when I was playing, it was mainly when I was playing sport, when I was playing ice hockey, I remember being in the change room and feeling like I was the only real person there who enjoyed having my own personal laptop that I was doing stuff on. I had friends when I was growing up who, they didn't even have iPods, or they were never really into iPads or laptops and shit like that. Whereas for me, it was I'm always after that next bit of tech to create something with. Was it the same for you, do you think?
For me, I mean, not design-wise, but I have friends who are really creative in music.
Yeah.
Which I was doing. I play drums and I've done that quite a lot throughout my life. So not maybe design. Actually, now one of my good friends, he's trying to be an architect right now. So I've always had people around me that have been doing some kind of creative form. So it's, yeah.
Do you think there was a key moment in your kind of life so far that kind of spurred you into becoming more creative? Were you at college when you were like, shit, I have to make a decision and I have to choose a course that I want to go down, or was it at uni that you made that decision?
I feel I don't know. I mean, I didn't know what to do when I was going between school and college. And I just did graphic design because I was like, oh, fuck it, let's see what happens. And that was kind of it. It was kind of necessity. Like I just had to pick something that kind of worked. And then I was like, I enjoy this. Let's go try out a uni. And then it kind of snowballed from there. But that first year at uni, I know I really didn't enjoy like graphics at all. So like it took a little bit of time to kind of tease out what parts of it I like and what parts I really don't like. Which I feel like a lot of people, they don't necessarily initially do something and don't like it. And it's like, you might enjoy that. You got to find the specific area that is good for you. Because like typography I hated, and now I'm all about that. I love doing publication stuff. So I think definitely give stuff a chance, like let it kind of breathe a little bit creative wise.
Didn't you have a family member, Max, who was creative? You've got a family member who's did that push you into becoming that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there was never any pressure to like be like, I wouldn't say pushed into being creative, but no, my uncle was a photographer, an artist, and then later on a creative director, and he was a massive inspiration, just seeing the work that he was doing and seeing sort of the lifestyle that he was living as someone that took pictures and made art was something that I massively looked up to. And I was very lucky, to be fair, there was a few people that I sort of grew up with that were also very creative and had their sort of side hustles and their passions that they were working on. And I feel like being surrounded with them really pushed me to do the same. But then I think it wasn't really until college when people that I didn't think were that creative or like had been put into that category of academic, that then when they went to college or then after college when they went to university, that's when they started to pursue that creative side of them and are now unbelievable creatives that have inspired me to go on to do different things or inspired me to try something new. When even though back at school they were the academic one, which I thought was really interesting. But no, having a family member that was a creative definitely inspired me to pursue it.
So so we've got some common problems here. Problems are also kind of just things that I'll throw at you guys, and we can throw it myself as well. And these are about how do you stay inspired as a creative? What's your like method of doing that? Because it's quite interesting for Max. It's obviously quite very video focused visual media, whereas for you, Mars, is probably a bit like myself. It's all I don't know, publications and printed media. Where do you get your inspiration from?
Instagram, Pinterest. I've got a few like websites that I go to. I've got a folder.
Give us a few of those. Spill the beans.
Someone could type something. Like, I have a folder. I don't really know what they're called, and just kind of click on random ones. Behance is pretty good. And then a lot of shows I watch, I just kind of see stuff or like random type, or like if I'm walking around, I'll generally take photos of things. Like I was in Cardiff ages ago, and like I saw this sign. I can't remember what it was for, and I was like, "That's like gnarly as shit." And it was just like some really bland shipping company or something. So whenever I see random stuff, just out and about, but mainly social media. However, there's stuff like I said that example. There's things all around the place.
How about yourself?
I would say social media as well, to be fair. I think there isn't really another platform, or there isn't really another medium that allows for content to flow as rapidly as social media. So I feel like there's always something new popping up, whereas like film and stuff like that, like yes, there's always new stuff coming out, but there's a lot of the films that I see anyway are somewhat similar. So it's unlikely that you'll see someone do something absolutely outrageous and completely never done before. Whereas on social media you'll get someone taping a camera to a ceiling fan or something, or like you said, like putting a camera on a garage door or something like that in the film you watch. Like I feel like you get much more of that on social media because people are like, social media, I'll just try it. But then I also feel like I went through a phase of always feeling like I needed to be inspired, or always feeling like I need, like, I used to feel like really shit if I was going through a bit of a creative rut and I wasn't really feeling that passionate about it and I wasn't really feeling that inspired. And I feel like through working freelance and then working for different companies and now ultimately like working here, after sort of putting in those hours, I realised that you don't actually need to be 100% inspired 24/7.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's a way that you're going to lead to either feeling shit about the work that you're producing now or just burning yourself out. I think that's something that took me a while to really understand. Yeah. But yeah, definitely social media, pulling inspiration from social media is a massive thing. Mm-hmm. What about you?
I think for me, I definitely think it's a really interesting point you made there about sometimes being too inspired can actually be a bit detrimental.
Just bombarded by like cool ideas, then you pick nothing out of them.
Like holy shit! Like everyone's creating so much cool stuff around me, but why aren't I creating this much cool stuff? Like and then you start to doubt your own ability to actually create something cool. Inspiration for me, I think, is I can't help but, for me, traveling is like whenever I go to a new place. I love going to London, I love going to Shoreditch, and to just a really creative hub. I always come up with new ideas, always picking up leaflets and, you know, taking photos of, like you say, just taking photos of typography on walls. I remember going to Cardiff and I was like in the car, and I had to just like take photos of like billboards and stuff like that. And it's just like these little snippets of like other people's design work in real life can really kind of inspire you when you come to creating your own stuff. And then individuals as well. What individuals out there kind of inspire you? Are there anyone on Instagram in particular?
I love a cinematographer called Danny Gewirtz. He's an American-based cinematographer. He's actually a YouTuber, and I found him on YouTube. But the work that he produces is just, like, the look of it is amazing. Mm-hmm. So I'd say he's probably one of my, like, if I could emulate anything or like have a style as close to anyone, it would probably be him.
Yeah. Miles?
Top of my head, nothing comes to mind.
No.
I've got like a bunch of accounts on Instagram, but I really kind of just follow it. I see some cool stuff. I'm like, that look nice, and kind of just flick through it.
I do remember the pressure of when I was growing up, getting into photography and not knowing any famous photographers, and instantly like trying to like revise, like, okay, I really like this person, then like having a list of people, but I probably couldn't even remember any of the photos, but in my head being like, I have to know 5 famous photographers, or else someone, a real photographer, is going to be like, what kind of
you guys that you don't know what you're on about. I'm kind of the same now as cinematographers. Like, if you said like, I'll rattle off 5 cinematographers or who shot this, I don't know, I just know that it looks cool.
I used to get that at uni quite a bit. Like, people would name it, I love these studios and I want to like intern there, and you'd be like, oh, what ones do you like? I'm like, I saw some stuff that was cool. I didn't really know who it is, but
do you reckon it's like a dick waving contest sometimes? It's like I know this. I know this.
I think it's like a subtle way of being like, are you serious about what you do?
Yeah,
but I feel like it's just
always just kind of throw me up when people did that, and they like name stuff, and I was like, I don't know these people.
Yeah,
like, should I know this? And like, I looked them up afterwards, and they were like really big design things, but I don't think you need to know that stuff. If you want to kind of do it, just make whatever.
Exactly that. And what about creative burnout? You said it earlier. Have there been times when you felt quite in the hole? Yeah,
massively. Uni was a deep pit of burnout. Yeah. Oh my god.
What do you put that down to?
Just the
was it time pressure or people pressure?
Yeah, it's like time pressure, financial pressure, because you keep thinking like, I've paid so much money to be here, I need to make sure I smash it out of the park.
Yeah.
There's a whole load of different things that I'm sure the students across most courses can resonate with. Things like, you know, you get given an open brief, you can do whatever you want, but it has to fit inside these really constricted parameters.
So it's not open.
So it's like kind of like a false brief where they say you can do whatever you want as long as you do this.
Yeah.
Which then naturally will lead to, you know, you burning out, and you're constantly around people that are doing the same thing as you. So it's like, ultimately you're coming out of uni to find a job. So you're making all this stuff surrounded by other people that you're essentially competing with in a way.
Yeah.
Which I found quite, not stressful, but it really pushed me to make sure that everything that I produced was banging, because all I was thinking about was, at the end of this, these guys are going to be sending their portfolios off to media houses or to whoever, as well as me. Mm-hmm. So I need to make sure that I'm on top of everything and I'm making my work as good as it can be. But I think, going back to what you said about sort of traveling, that kind of thing, going on day trips, creating content for yourself, that's the stuff that got me out of creative ruts and out of burnout, just stepping away from it and just having fun with it again.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that got me out.
Yeah. I think for me, like, burnout for me, sometimes I get that recently, it's just like if you overcreate the same stuff.
Yeah.
Like, so with social media content recently, I've been like making quite a bit of that, and it's like, okay, I've made this much of it, and then I suddenly get to the end and I'm like, I feel like I've just run out of ideas.
Yeah.
And then it's really hard to then research or like find someone who inspires you to create the next batch of ideas. It's quite hard to do that sometimes.
For sure. Do you find it with graphics at all?
Yeah, definitely, like all the time. You do like a one kind of single style and just keep doing it, especially with social media.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, it's kind of pretty easy to kind of push these out, and you're like, oh, it's just the same posts like 4 times in a row. You're like, oh, and then you just keep doing that. Going back to like uni as well, I'd find that with like, you just get some briefs that were kind of purposely awkward to get you to. The idea was so you to think outside the box.
Yeah.
But I don't know, you get really stressed with everything else, and like you kind of get stuck on one idea. Like I find I like fixate on like one idea way too much sometimes.
Yeah.
That like doesn't need to be that deep. Like today, for example, I was working on a project, and I really want to do this one thing, and it's like I didn't need to do that. I could just leave it and just like jump on something else. So like do like a really simple idea. It doesn't have to be this big mountain of like design or like photography or whatever. Like it's better to kind of go. It's fine to go with a simple idea sometimes.
100%. That's such a good point. To be fair, like I for the longest time thought that every single thing that left my computer had to be A1 winning award, like was going to win awards and all this stuff. Obviously, it was never going to win an award, but it needed to be the best. Every single thing that I worked on had to be the best thing I've ever produced. And I think letting go of that and realise it, like, I'd work on videos and get halfway through and be like, this doesn't hit like I thought it was going to.
Yeah.
But that's okay. Like, obviously, client work's different, but then you have more time and you put more, like, thought process into that because you know... And usually you're hitting a brief, which makes things a lot easier. But if it's a personal project or you've gone out with your mate to do a photo shoot and you get back and the photos are shit, like, sometimes you just have those shoots.
Yeah. And what's your like go-to thing when like you make a project and you hate it? Like you get halfway through and like I hate all of this. You scrap it, you just fight through it. Because I have sometimes where like I'll make something and like I think this is awful and it might not be that bad, but I'll just scrap it. Like you just keep fighting through it, try and twig it and like tweak it. Sorry.
So usually I'll give myself a day or two. Like if it's a big project, then obviously that can stay for a little bit longer. But I'm a big advocate of. Once I've established in my own head that I don't like it, it's very unlikely that I'm going to be able to bring myself around because I'll always spot, like, I didn't do that right, that's not lit right, whatever. And I think I'll give myself a day or two, and if I can't fix it, or I can't get to a point like, okay, yeah, no, I can work with this. If it's still at that point by the end of the 2 days, then it's just like, right, that's a write-off.
Yeah.
Let's leave that on to the next one. Just whatever I didn't do right this one, I know how to fix it now, moving into the next one.
When you're talking about stuff like that, what about confusing revisions? That was one of my points here. How do you deal with clients that are giving you revisions that are not the most agreeable? Any top tips?
Communication. Comms is so key. And ironing out exactly what is expected is... I found, especially working in video, is one of the biggest things that you can do. Is starting off a project, you need to know exactly what you're hitting so that to preempt that.
Yeah.
But then also just, I don't really know, to be honest. I'm not gonna lie, it's something that I'm still trying to.
Yeah.
Sort of
I think it's something you never really crack.
Yeah.
I think with video as well, though. So like with the project that we just shot like, what was it, 2 days out on different locations, one in Cardiff, one in the Cotswolds. But the client was with us for the whole time, and they kind of were within the area that we were shooting, so they knew roughly what we were getting. So they'd like, okay, we're at a landscape, we'll get this landscape shot, we're in an office shots, etc., etc. So it's quite tight, it's quite refined, isn't it, in what they're going to get?
Yeah.
Whereas I guess with design miles, it's like, oh yeah, can you just make me a poster with like this copy and this, and a few photos, and then it's like, hand over to you, and if they haven't given you much detail, it's like, there's so many variables, isn't there, with graphic design?
Yeah, because like what I think's cool could be completely different to what they actually want.
Yeah.
I feel like transparency or like making mood boards is the best thing to do for clients. Like, if they kind of say like, I love this sort of style, and I'm like, all right, cool. Just saying like, I'll kind of do whatever, make it look cool. That's the like worst thing. Yeah. But I don't know, awkward about. I've not had too much because obviously I've only been here for a little bit of time, and like prior to that, I was kind of doing things with friends or like friends of friends. So the communication was pretty transparent. But I don't know really. Just keep working at it, I suppose, and like. Yeah, kind of take it to a literal sense. Don't try and overthink like what they send sometimes because like before, I've looked at stuff and I'm like, what is that? And like just take it on surface value. Like, oh, it's just this.
Yeah, I think you have to sort of detach yourself from the work almost. Like not in a bad way, but like I've worked on passion projects where it's like I'll spend weeks on one shot making it perfect, and then you need to detach yourself from stuff like this, especially at the rate that we're putting out content and the rate. We're working on multiple video shoots a week or multiple edits a week. So it's like, just because you think this should be done this way, or this shot should look like this, or this shot should hold on just for a couple more seconds because it flows a lot nicer in the film. Just because you think that doesn't mean it's right. And the client might not want that. So detaching yourself from it and thinking, this isn't my baby, this is someone else's. I'm working with them to produce it for them.
Yeah.
If they want it, that's fine, I can do it. It's well within my power. Like I'm capable of cutting this clip 3 seconds shorter than it is. So I just do it.
Yeah.
Because it's not mine, it's theirs.
I think I'm slowly kind of finding that, like, you don't have to take it too personally.
Yeah.
And kind of take yourself, like you were saying, away from the project. Like, this is what they want, I'm going to do it. And then, like, if you can get a middle ground in there, then perfect. But if not, it's not that bad. Like, I know I was doing some posts for Ben's LinkedIn, and, like, I did this style, and I hated it. I was like, I'll be honest, I was like, I do not like this at all. And, like, I kind of messed with it for a few hours, really didn't get on with it. And then, like, after having a discussion and kind of going back and forth, got to a point where it's like, all right, I'm just going to commit to it. And I ended up making something that I'm actually, like, quite happy with, and, like, I actually like the work. So like I said earlier, just keep working into it and try and find, like, hopefully a middle ground. But if it's not an issue. Like, there'll be other projects.
Yeah.
It's not always going to be the most engaging, like, fun thing, but, you know, it is a job, so you kind of have to do it.
Yeah.
What's your top tip?
I echo massively about the communication side. Luckily for us, as the creatives, we've always got Ben to lean on for that.
Yeah.
There's always kind of a middleman between the client and the creative, and I think even when it comes to shooting, I like being the middleman between you and Joss when we're filming and the client, so I can kind of, the client gives me their expectations and I can kind of lay that over to you, and then hopefully I can decipher what they want and deliver that to you in a clearer way, because they'll hit me with some random shit. Revision wise, like, just really pay attention and, like, just take your time with it. Like, I remember in my previous job I was doing a whole range of posters, and there was loads of links for, like, images and stuff like that, and I was working between Photoshop and InDesign, and I was creating, like, an A4 A5 web posters, all this, but with the same kind of content. And I adjusted one little bit of content and it completely threw the whole thing off, but I didn't notice it. So I was exporting PDFs with, like, old images and stuff. Right. They were about, like, little headphones and stuff. So just really just, like, take your time, take a breather, and just make sure that you've checked everything before sending it. Yeah. And, like, when it comes to PDFs, like, once you've written a PDF, open that PDF up and zoom in and check copy, like, text, like, typos. I mean, typos. Like, we literally installed a massive vinyl at the Brunel, and there was a huge typo on it. I spelt "you are" wrong. I spelled it like you. I spelled it Y-O apostrophe U-R-E or something stupid like that. I put the apostrophe in the wrong place. It got signed off by 4 people, but no one noticed it. Had we all just taken 5 minutes just double check, it wouldn't have happened. Luckily, the guys at Ottr can rip it out and put it back up, but that's pretty tragic. Yeah, just double check everything. Yeah. I think that brings us to an end on our creative topic. Joss, is that all good? Joss, thumbs up. That takes us to our second topic. This is more of you boys, I think, when it comes to the whole world of highbrow fashion. Not highbrow fashion, but kind of streetwear fashion. I
mean, this is not right. Yeah, streetwear is kind of more appropriate, I'd say.
Yeah, let's discuss that.
I'm a bit of a catfish. I don't actually know as much as I let on.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a twist.
I like to think I know
You do pick up quite a bit of your own stuff, though. You've got a few decent pairs of shoes.
I think we're, as an office, we're a pretty well-dressed office, I think.
Yeah.
Like, as far as, studio. We're not an office, we're a studio. As far as studios go, I think we're pretty well dressed. Recently been trying to bring that well dressedness into more functional stuff.
Yeah.
Like the 4-wheel drive shoes that we've all been very fond of. Mine are Hockers and yours are Reebok
something,
sorry.
Yeah.
Because we find ourselves on shoots in the middle of nowhere, usually in the wet, usually up a hill somewhere, and wearing all white shoes to a location like that, as I found out, is not ideal. So thought I'd better invest in some 4-wheel drive shoes, some Gore-Tex, some waterproof trainers, and finding that crossover has been really difficult. I can't lie.
What's your inspiration, would you say, and what you wear? Would you say you've
comfort.
have you always dressed like this, or has it changed?
I've been dressed. Yeah, I've dressed like
years?
Well, since college. I look back at pictures of me first year of college, and I die a little bit inside.
Skinny jeans and everything.
Yeah, God, just not good.
It's all like cargos and kind of loose fit and trousers around it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think comfort above everything. Really. Yeah. Now, I think when I was at uni, it was more like, I think you're caught up in this race of like, oh, I've got to look sick all the time. Mm-hmm. But then I feel like working here, you want to look nice because obviously interest in fashion, like you like we all like looking good, but at the same time, you know, wearing flat shoes on a 14-hour shoot or a 13-hour shoot you're going to break your feet.
Yeah.
So you need to make sure that what you're wearing is good, or is suitable to what you're doing every day. And I feel like wearing comfortable stuff has taken a major front seat in the past 8 months.
What about you, Miles? What inspires you? Where do you get your sense from, your dress sense from? Where would you say? Has it changed? Were you secretly an emo back in school or something?
I wouldn't say that. My friends might say different.
Really?
I mean, I used to wear skinny jeans and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, just kind of a lot of cargos and kind of loose fitting things. Mainly from workwear sort of stuff. I wear obviously a lot of Dickies, Carhartt, and hip hop kind of clothing, that sort of stuff. It's generally my, I think, main takeaway. Mm-hmm. I just kind of see that or be amongst that sort of kind of culture, and then kind of take bits from it, or drum and bass sort of stuff. Cargos and loose fitted shirts, kind of cozy, but also a little bit kind of high fashion sort of stuff going on. I mean, today's not a great example because I'm wearing just regular Vans and stuff, but I'll wear fat Air Maxes or whatever.
Yeah. What's yours? Yours is more interesting, I feel like, because you flutter between a fit that's okay, dad fit, to
the art director,
absolute, art director just steez, and you just come in on a random Tuesday, just dripped out, and then the next day you'll come in just cash, you just can't be asked. In the nicest way possible.
Charity shop finds are a big part of my wardrobe. The shoes I'm wearing today are charity shop finds. I've got Fjallraven, a really expensive Fjallraven coat that I found in a charity shop. I think a bit like you, comfy shit, but I don't know where I mix it. It's just kind of cool. I just go a bit weird with it. The other day, I was in my Converse with a pair of just grey kind of workwear trousers. I looked like I was going to the office or some shit, and then I had a Burberry coat on. I was throwing it out.
When you came in the office, I was like, okay, we turned up today.
Yeah, it's I had a school interview or some shit. That's the cool thing, though. I love that about first of all, I guess it's about being an adult and being able to just choose exactly what you want to wear and owning that. I think I have any reservations to anything I wear. I think I'll just rock whatever. I'm pretty sure I'm going to get a pair of cowboy boots soon.
I've heard about this for a long time now,
with Hannah working at Ariat, I'm pretty sure she can hook me up. So I don't know what I'm going to rock cowboy boots with, though.
Is it going to be the whole outfit's based on just the cowboy boots, or that's just going to be a compliment to everything else that's going on?
Yeah, they're just going to be a statement piece.
Okay, so not the big cowboy hat. And
just the boots.
Get some short shorts.
No Ram Ranch shit. Talking about Ram Ranch, Miles, please explain. How did this even come into the office?
Sus side out, bro.
It's this awful song. Don't listen to it. But no, a friend of mine sent it to me.
For all of you only listening at home, Ram Ranch, Joss has pulled up on the screen here. You're going to wish you were watching this because it's a hot cowboy.
Really, let's get
in his leather chaps.
It's a meme song.
It's a meme song. A friend of mine sent it to me. I think in 2020. Apparently it's been around for ages, and I sent it to another friend of mine. It's kind of just exploded from there, and it's just every prees it comes on. It's
every prees.
I would say so. Yeah, my uni mate's oh, just for fuck's sake, and it'll just come on. I just hear the guitar melody, and it's
a pre-night out ritual now.
Pretty much, yeah. Or if everyone's hungover, that just gets blaring out.
You have some pretty wild prees before you go out to most night out, right? Didn't the other day you were saying that you were just drinking red wine or some shit and you had Mickey Mouse playing on in the background on the projector?
No, this was a while ago. So we were doing a sophisticated night. So we bought a bunch of really kind of cheap wine from Co-op, and I put some classical music on and just got fairly drunk as a whole thing. Just because we would all be gentlemen, sophisticated, esteemed men.
What were you wearing to that? Were you all in black tie and shit or not?
No, I didn't go that far. I just kind of wore my regular clothes. I think the music and the wine, the way I was speaking, that was enough.
And you changed your vocabulary as well.
Yeah,
speaking
just for the evening. Yes,
like a refined gentleman.
Yeah, exactly. The finer things, fine wines, and
I should try that on the next company night out.
Yes,
I want to see a full tuxedo, a top hat.
That's what I'm saying.
Monocle as well.
Yeah,
I'd love to see Joss in a top hat.
Definitely see it. His head's quite big though, so I don't know if you get one.
Oh no!
Sorry, Joss. That's fair enough, mate. Well, actually, talking about fashion and the mix of fashions and stuff, should we talk about the mix of streetwear and performance wear?
Yeah, man.
I think generally, just speaking about that, I think has there been a rise in it, or do you think it's always kind of been there? And I've just never noticed it. You guys have been in it longer.
It's a tough one, I think, because I don't really have an answer to that. because it's like, I'd say it's more time based. Like 90s fashion is coming back. It's less now about.
Big. It's weird to me how like I must have been happening for ages. But big brands like really well known. Like you'll get kids that will know about Supreme and Palace and all sort of stuff. And like I swear this probably did happen when I was like, I don't know, like 13, 14. I didn't care. Like I wasn't on my radar at all. But I feel like now I walk around and see some kid in a fake Gucci shirt. I'm like, what? Like do they know? Do they care? I don't understand. Like. And that might be with social media, people kind of being more conscious of that sort of stuff, or like, oh, this is cool, so I have to kind of try and get to that maybe. But definitely in the last like 5-10 years, like streetwear like is skyrocketed with like big brands and kind of collabs as well. Like that's another big thing.
I think people established that the sort of skate scene and the image of not caring and the image of like function over everything else has become more appealing. So like, you know, like baggier trousers, you know, like workwear kind of thing, like stuff that's built to last.
Well, it used to be all like fitted stuff for the last 2010s. It was all like fitted. Yeah, and you used to take the piss out of people who wore like baggy stuff.
The idea of wearing baggy jeans then is like, oh my god.
Now it's like, that's where it's at.
But then like everyone loves that kind of aesthetic, and like like we were talking about the other day, like, you know, private school kids dressing like, you know, their outfits are like, the whole thing's like £2, and it's like looks absolutely knackered. They look like they haven't showered in days, yet their outfit's worth thousands. But it looks horrific, or it looks beaten. But I feel like high fashion houses are getting on that now as well. Like Balenciaga have just brought out these the new Converse ones. Yeah,
can you pull those up, please, Joss?
That just
Balenciaga
look like
Converse.
I mean, there is a niche for it. There's a market for it 100%. Otherwise, they wouldn't have brought them out.
Are these a bit too far though? The state of these Converse are something else, aren't they?
Yeah,
top left.
Oh my god,
they're like,
look at that.
That is.
So they are insanely distressed. They've got holes all over them, and the laces are.
They're just
and then Balenciaga's written on the bottom of the shoe.
Yeah, I mean, I understand it because it's kind of like a, you know, high fashion houses. You think, what do you think of? You think like clean, perfect. Like it's sort of going against that. I think that's the whole point. Gucci've been doing it for a few years. They brought out, I can't remember what the name of them is called. A pair of like dad shoes that were really distressed. I remember when they came out, everyone was like, "Oh my god, what the fuck!" Like these are like £800 or like £1,000, and they look like they're just beating up Zara shoes.
Yeah, these bought to be worn though. They bought kind of because obviously fashion runway shows. That a lot of people are like, "Oh, it's so crazy, no one would wear that." Like, the point isn't for you to wear it. It's like, in a lot of ways, an artist expressing themselves, or like showing kind of like a weird painting, for example, the same sort of thing. Are those designed?
Yeah, these are so like made to wear. Yeah,
they're not like a kind of art piece.
No. These will be like you'll be able to go to Selfridges and buy them probably.
I'd love to handle them. Just go down and see actually what they feel like and what they're like. Like I wonder what the inside. I wonder if the inside of them is distressed as well, or like the inside of the shoe is.
I mean, it might be. It might be just as a look at this cool thing that we can do.
Do you think a lot of these houses though bring out sneakers that are fucked for the purpose of PR?
Probably.
Yeah, I guess we were talking. I mean, like Gucci do weird stuff all the time. People are like, "Oh, that's so crazy," but it's just kind of to drum up hype or like get people chatting about it, and it works because right now we're doing that.
Yeah.
There's a market for it. There is 100% a market for it. Like the whole, you look back at like a good friend of mine is into like sort of, I'd say 2000s, like sort of Misbehave, Undercover, Dolce & Gabbana, like all that sort of, that kind of scene. And the clothes that were coming out then were a similar sort of, not similar level of distress, but a similar kind of ethos. You can see the route that that it's taken. So I feel like it's not something that's been done massively, but it's not something that's new. What I think is new is the level that it's gone to now. The fact that a house such as Balenciaga is bringing it out for the masses and is pushing it so hard. That's something that's new.
What about the world of collabs? When you think about that, are there any kind of ones that have stuck out to you? I was just thinking there, like, was it Travis Scott who did it with Fortnite?
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty nuts, isn't it? As a general collab.
I think it's genius. Yeah. I think it's absolutely genius.
Was that for the launch of his album? That was purely an album launch?
Yeah, I think it was, wasn't it? Or no, launch of the song.
Yeah.
His new single.
But that was nuts. What they did there, putting him on stage in a game.
he put himself in front of a whole new market.
What do you think?
Arguably the wrong market.
Did it not get taken up too well?
I think it kind of, like, in terms of, like, my perspective of Travis, it kind of killed him for me. What do you think?
I mean,
you're probably more qualified to talk on this because you're the music head.
I'm not a fan of Fortnite. You experienced the whole, like, online. Yeah, you played it.
Yeah.
So can't speak for that too much, but yeah, it's collaborating with everything. Like, he's done stuff with, like, McDonald's. Like,
yeah.
I used to be cool with collaborations, and now, like, there's so much, especially in fashion as well. With everyone's like, oh, we're doing a collab, and it's just like, I feel like a lot of brands kind of lose their unique style, and it's kind of just like it loses, because before, when someone's doing a collab, it was like, oh, this is a big thing. Like, these two companies that don't normally do stuff together do it a thing, and it's going to be like different, or like, amalgamation of both. Whereas now it's just like, it just looks like everything to me. I don't know, like. Yeah. There are a few that I get hyped about, but generally I'm kind of just like, it's fine.
I think it's very easy to tell a collab that's been, like, thought through and is, like, very genuine versus a collab that's like, okay, this is like the Gucci North Face collab. Mm-hmm. That's not or in my head, looking at that collection, that's not a genuine thing. They're not putting shit out to be like, oh, we're two really cool brands. We want to work with
these people because they're cool.
Yeah, we can join forces together and make something that's really cool. This is North Face puffers are really popular right now. The Gucci print's really popular right now. Why don't we just smash the two together and we'll charge $3,000 for it?
Make a shitload of cash.
Yeah.
If it's like a big company and they support like a smaller artist or like a smaller company, I'm like, that's cool by me because they're giving them a bigger platform so they can kind of produce cooler work or have a bigger budget or whatever. So I'm like, I support that sort of stuff. When it's like two big companies not really doing anything, it's like, because these are big name brands, people are going to buy it or people are going to resell it. So it's just going to pull money in, and like it doesn't feel sincere. I mean, they might be, but from an outside perspective, it doesn't feel like that. No.
Are there any underground collabs that you've seen that we might not know about? Anything off the top of your head? What's your top? Saucony and what?
This is, I think it's Only in Saucony. I got this a very long time ago. It's all destroyed. It's from I bought it from a shop in Bristol that's closed now. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of long sleeve tee with some nice.
You recently picked up the Palace. Calvin Klein as well,
Palace
right?
Calvin Klein. So I'm a bit of a hypocrite for getting that, because that is two big brands just kind of collaborating.
I would say Palace is like, I guess it's big in the skate world, but like generally it's not like a high street name, is it?
No.
I say
whereas like North Face and Gucci are like huge.
It's a high street name in the sense that people know about it, but I feel like it's not high street name in the sense like Zara is a high street name. Like I can walk into Zara and buy anything. I feel like Palace is still...
That one was cool to me because they do stuff with like people I like. Like they had Willem Dafoe on their ad campaign for that, and I was like, that's cool. Like kind of incorporating him.
Yeah.
They did with like Jonah Hill and people like that. They incorporate pop culture icons for me.
I think out of the streetwear scene, I prefer Palace for their collaborations. Like I don't. Whenever Supreme do a collaboration, I think this is just.
It's not. I mean,
it's
Palace,
just a money grab.
They do weird stuff with their ads. Like they do a lot of weird VHS footage, or they'll splice it up with like old 80s music or like elevator music or whatever. Mm-hmm. So that kind of creative output I quite like, and the strange designs they do.
Yeah.
I respect quite a bit, but
the Palace Stella collab is a big one for me.
That stuff like that's cool. Doesn't feel too kind of disingenuous, and like it's a bit tongue in cheek. Whereas like Supreme's like. They were that, and now they're at a point they're so big that it's kind of just that any of the personality is kind of gone, and it's just like, oh, it wouldn't be fun if we made a brick, and it's like, I guess it's, like, it's just not like the same sort of thing. Whereas I don't know, it feels like the people who they collaborate with is because they care about those brands or whatever.
Yeah.
What about you? Because you're in sort of streetwear, but you dabble in other things as well. You like more sort of outdoor brands.
Yeah, I haven't really. I don't know if collabs. I just think about like the rise of just general outdoor wear recently.
Yeah,
like just like Arc'teryx. Like, yeah, this is nuts. Like I knew about that brand years ago, but was never really into it because I thought it was just mega expensive, and at the time I was probably well into North Face, and I felt like the North Face stuff wasn't as hyped as it is now. So then it was like it felt a little bit more exclusive. Then suddenly like all the kind of big A-listers in the world, like I guess like Skepta and Drake and everyone started wearing North Face, and I felt like for me that devalued the brand of North Face massively. And I was like, I feel like I don't really want to wear North Face anymore because it's sold in JD Sports.
Yeah.
Whereas back then it was like you got it online or you got it in like Cotswold Outdoor or like Go Outdoors and shit like that. Whereas now I guess like Arc'teryx is like.
Do you feel then it's just because hyped. Like Because Arc'teryx was because of social media, wasn't it? It was because someone, I can't remember who, was it Drake?
I'm pretty sure it was Drake, right? Who wore...
Well, yeah, Drake wore it, and then also it was Off-White, Virgil. Virgil did a new fashion show. He did a big show. I think it was in Paris or whatever.
Right.
He didn't ask for or get a collab with Arc'teryx at all, but all of his models on the runway wore Arc'teryx jackets. And Arc'teryx actually said they have nothing to do with this runway show. Like, this has nothing to do with them. Because I think they still want to hold their roots of like being an outdoor brand, and like the quality of their outdoor wear is really important.
Yeah.
And they don't want to kind of, I guess, sell out to the world of, high fashion or whatever.
That must take a lot in this sort of day and age where, like, because you could quite easily...
You've got on a plate.
Imagine being the marketing director of Arc'teryx, thinking, I've just had the next 5-10 years handed to me on a plate. Like Virgil Abloh, who is absolutely huge at the time, putting me on this pedestal essentially.
Yeah, and they
he could have milked that so hard.
Yeah, or they could have collaborated with pretty much anyone they wanted within reason. But yeah, that must be insane. It's like, nah, we've got like our values.
It's like,
we're a climbing company, right? And they just we're going to stick to that and support our like clients, because their prices have stayed the same as far as I know, right? They're not.
Yeah, I think they've always. And the really interesting thing with Arc'teryx is they've got like a line, so they've got like 3 lines of clothing. I think they've got like performance wear, casual wear, then like outdoor wear or something like that. Right. And their performance is where like the high end jackets are. That's what all the kind of streetwear people at the moment are wearing this shit, which is like, I think it's like over $1,000 for a jacket or something like that. It's like £800-900 for a jacket, and it's like people are just casually buying. Well, not casually, but they're buying this as a statement piece.
Yeah,
that's just nuts. Another collab which I thought was quite interesting, which you'll probably be into, is the Dior Air Jordan.
Yeah,
that's pretty nuts. That was yesterday. That was like last year's drop, right? Was that 2020 or 2021?
It was 2020. I'm sure.
Yeah.
It was.
That was like, when I saw that coming out, I didn't think it was real. I thought they were customs that someone had made. I remember seeing the first like a leaked picture, and I was like, there is no way. But I think after Supreme Louis Vuitton, and I can't remember, there was another major collab around that time. Mm-hmm. It might have just been Supreme Louis Vuitton, to be fair.
It is strange how like big brands were so, not like Gucci and stuff, were so against collaborating with Supreme and that sort of stuff.
I think like for all that Supreme is now, and like its sort of downfall, it did kind of open the gate and allow the, like, I don't think like Dior Air Jordan would not have happened. I don't think.
Well, Supreme lifted Louis V's like symbols for like a deck and a box logo like way back. Pretty sure they got in trouble for it, which is strange because obviously then like years later they were collaborating with this company that like hey, why are you taking our stuff? Which is just bizarre, but.
The world, I guess. Just reading here that the Dior Air Jordan 1 retailed at £2,200 for the high tops, $2,000 for the lows, and they now resell for up to $10,000 on StockX.
Jesus Christ!
Can you imagine picking those up?
Can you imagine like wearing those?
I wouldn't. I mean, the thing is, the people. I would argue that the people that are buying those, like genuinely buying those, not like influencers that are buying it just to post a picture and then sell them. The people that are like genuinely buying them to like wear or put away in their collection are not fussed about $10,000 for a pair of shoes. Because realistically, you're not dropping $10,000 on shoes if $10,000 is a lot of money to you. I would argue there's much better things to spend your money on.
Yeah,
I mean they're like art pieces essentially.
Yeah,
well, keep it in your house and look at it. I mean, it's like anything else. Even if it's a form of a shoe, it's still been like.
It's collectible. Yeah, it's collectible.
And then the final one, the collab, would be the Omega Swatch.
Oh,
big.
Oh, huge.
How's it feel about that? Josh, do you mind pulling some of those up, please?
I don't know what this is.
The Omega Swatch. Is it Omega?
Yeah. So I again, this is just collectible stuff. Like, I'm massive. That's part of the reason why I like fashion so much, because I'm big into collecting things. Mm-hmm. Like, my girlfriend and I have quite a big collection of shoes. They're not all the most hyped shoes. They're not all the most amazing shoes in the world. Some of them are cheap. Some of them are more expensive. But I just feel like that idea of collecting things and building like a nice variety that you can show, I quite like the idea of that. Not show as in like, oh, look what I've got, but also like when I go home, I've got all my boxes stacked up. So it's like it shows variety. It's expressing myself in that way, and I think that's what this was. Also a bit of a cash grab. Also getting more people into watches. But basically, for those that can't see, Omega, which is a very well-established luxury, well, Yeah, I'd class them as luxury watch company.
Like that, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you think that, but for the watch market, they're actually not that bad.
These retailed at what, under £300?
These retailed at £200.
Yeah, 200.
Yeah. But Swatch are a very attainable watch company. They've been making watches for years. They collaborated with Omega. So so Swatch Group actually own Omega.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so Swatch Group own a variety of different watchmakers. They own Omega, that's one of them. And Swatch make, sort of entry-level watches all the way up to, like, I don't know what you class them as, but like a couple of £100. And they collaborated with Omega to create a cheaper version of their Speedmaster. Josh, I don't know if you can pull up a picture of the Omega Speedmaster. This is like a $5-6 watch. Absolutely, like, it's just beautiful. But yeah, so they collaborated with Swatch to make this. I believe it's ceramic something. It's basically plastic. Just a plastic version of it. And they branded it in such a way with like this whole mission to Mars thing, a mission to the moon, like sort of tied it in with sort of lunar exploration. And it sold really, really, really well.
Didn't it got to a point where I think that there was queues of people waiting outside the Swatch shop in London. They had 2 shops in London.
Yeah.
Camden was one of them, wasn't it? Was it
Yeah.
And people swarmed the shop and they ended up having to close it and put the shutters down because people were just like rushing it so hard.
I think it sold out like instantly.
And it was available at like 3 a.m. in the
Something
online.
like that, yeah.
I remember my girlfriend's dad getting up. Apparently, he got up at like on drop time. And he's like, nearly 60 years old, but he was even hyped on something like that, which is so crazy that like a drop of, I guess, 2 big brands that have always been around are getting people in their 60s excited.
Yeah,
that's.
I was on a shoot that day, and I remember having a 4-hour window before there was one bit where we were filming in the morning and then we were filming again in the afternoon. And I had a 4-hour window in the middle where it was kind of just we'll meet back here at the end of the afternoon. And I was literally this close to taking the underground back into central London to go to the Swatch shop to go and get one. Thank God I didn't, because obviously they closed it all down and it would have been faff getting back. But I've actually seen some reviews that they're actually not as good.
Really?
Well, it's a Swatch at the end of the day, so it's taking the Omega badge, the Omega design. But it's got a Swatch movement, so the actual internals of the watch is Swatch, and it's plastic.
Yeah.
So it uses the same sort of materials-ish as a normal Swatch watch, which goes for a lot less. So there's people arguing like, is there any point in buying it? Because at the end of the day, you're buying a £200 Swatch, not a £200 Omega.
Yeah.
But then there are people like, this is a collectible, this is bringing luxury down to a more affordable price range. And I'm not too sure on which side I sit. Mm-hmm. I quite like it because I like that it's bringing a more luxury tier to a more attainable market.
Yeah.
And I also quite like the colours that they've done and how they've kind of pushed the boat out a little bit, because I feel like a lot of watches these days look very similar.
Yeah.
With the exception of, ridiculously high tier ones like Richard Mille and Jacob & Co. and that kind of thing. But I think these watches are something that's a little bit different, and I like that this has introduced so many more. What am I saying? A lot more people to the watch game.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy.
It did it right. It worked.
Yeah.
Because I'm even interested now. I like watches, but never to a point where I was like, I really want to get involved with this drop.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty mad. The final topic, Mars, which you're going to lead us with, is the nostalgic feels. And you were talking about TV shows recently.
Yeah, so it's like, I think, 3 TV shows that I've been really into for the last couple of years. I kind of just had a hiatus for like 2-3 years. So Atlanta's came back, which is Donald Glover's TV show. It's basically a hip-hop show kind of about a rapper and his, Donald Glover plays his manager, and like kind of all the weird stuff. Like, it's really kind of hard to explain. It sounds really mundane, but there's so much like weird, trippy stuff that goes on.
It's mad that he's an actor in this. This is America.
Well, he's like an actor, director, writer, and then rapper as well.
It's crazy.
Because Charles Gambino, Donald Glover, same person.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. I mean, this show kind of like wears all kind of his influences on its sleeve, like very obviously.
Where's it available?
You can get it on, I believe Disney Plus.
The Disney Plus. I might have to check that out. I've never watched it.
I've never watched it either.
The way it's
I'd like to
shot
watch that.
is really, really cool. Like, every episode will open up with the title Atlanta being like a weird way. So like last week's episode was in Amsterdam. They were in like an Amsterdam bar, and there was like a sticker on the table and it just had Atlanta on it. Or like in season 1, there's a drink spilled and the liquid just makes up the word Atlanta. So like there's so much weird creative stuff they do with the shots.
Yeah.
And like the choice of music, like it's hip hop, but then they've got like people like Tame Impala with tracks on it, and then there'll be like some old R&B tracks or some like old soul stuff, and like it's just a mixture of weird things. Like there's one episode just about an alligator at one point, like that's like a main plot point of the episode, and there'll be another episode where some like they're just trying to go around Amsterdam and like chill and do whatever. Like there's so much.
Is every episode leading on to the next one?
So there is like an overarching like theme and story.
Yeah.
But generally like it is kind of a sitcom, so there will be like one-off episodes that go do random stuff.
Right.
But there are like themes or like that will carry across from the whole season. So one like last season was like robbing season, so like I think it's set during Christmas and like people trying to like make money and kind of keep moving.
Yeah.
But no, it's sick. I'm just so happy it's back because there was like such a drought in TV for a little while.
Yeah.
But I went back and like watched older shows. Another show that came back is Better Call Saul, which had like a hiatus. Pandemic kind of slowed it down. So that's back. I think it's on its like 4th episode. I watched one last night.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about the shot earlier. Basically, someone pulls into like garage and they've fixed the camera up onto a like door, and it slowly goes down.
Yeah.
And it like so you see from the ceiling, it's a garage door, and it pulls down to the bottom of the garage. There's so much like kind of creative cinematography, as well as like just if you're a fan of Breaking Bad, like it's pretty really good.
I need to give this another go. To be fair, I watched the first episode.
Yeah, I've never watched Better Call Saul. I watched Breaking Bad, but not this.
I would give it a chance. I understand like the first season to me it's not slow, but I could see why you'd think that.
Mm-hmm.
To be fair, I think I wasn't invested when I started watching it.
I would
probably
definitely
led me to flake out.
It's escalated so much. Like this season is so much more like kind of moody and dark. Like, there's still kind of glimpses of kind of happy, fun little stuff, but it's like.
Is it still related to Breaking Bad?
Yeah. So it's set prior to it still. That we're not quite at the same timeline as Breaking Bad, but it's close. The final season.
Okay.
And your final show, was there 3 or 2?
There was 3. Yeah. Another show I watched is called Barry.
Never heard of that.
It's on HBO, and it's about a hitman that wants to become an actor, which sounds really, really dumb. I promise you it's not. It's like a really kind of, it's dark comedy, but it's like quite silly as well at times.
Wait, no, I've seen this.
It's on HBO.
Yeah.
How do you watch that in the UK?
It's on Now TV, I believe you can watch it.
Sick. I was about to drop you in it. Yeah, I pirate this.
But yeah, no, it's solid. And again, like the way it's shot is insane, and like just some of the acting's, because he plays someone who can't act, like quite believably, and then there are some scenes that'll be like really, really intense. I can't really talk about any of the stuff because there's so many like little spoilers, but
cool.
That had a hiatus for a while and it's back, which is nice.
Do you think that Atlanta, or what came first, your love of music or your love of Atlanta? Did Atlanta get you into that kind of
no, I mean, I love Childish Gambino and like the stuff he's worked on, and I've been like listening to hip hop stuff since like I think college, because my brother showed me Swimming Pools with Kendrick Lamar, and then I listened to like a lot of Kid Cudi for a while.
Okay.
And that kind of just like snowballed from there. I just started like listening to like old school stuff, and then kind of more like contemporary things that I used to be really against. You obviously know Playboy Carti.
Yeah. Like
mumble rap, I was like, oh, this is not the bars are stupid, all this sort of stuff. And then I was like, take a step back and like kind of think about it as his voice is like a synth, and the beats are kind of just whatever. Like the lyrics don't need to mean anything. And I think once you kind of like take it back and stop being so like prejudgy, you can kind of enjoy that sort of stuff. But
what are your thoughts on like Lil Pump and that lot then?
That's where I draw the line. That is like straight garbage, but I'm so sorry. But I know some stuff cool. Like Carti, I think his beats and his vocals on the most part are pretty sick.
But what about what Lil Pump did for music, man?
Well, the song with Kanye as well.
Yeah.
That's such a weird
tune, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a big tune, but it was such a weird time now I think about it. Like when he went all like Christian, and there was like that block of just manic
that was
episodes.
just like a full like 6 months to a year of just how many cash grabs can we make.
Yeah, the video when they were like Roblox
crazy
outfit, and then like they did SNL in the drink suits, so because you're left Joss.
The drinks.
Yeah,
I say when Kanye was on a madness, but he's...
well, yeah, he's always on a madness.
You
Right?
love Kanye though too, right? Did you watch his documentary?
His documentary, yeah, I thought it was good. It got a little bit kind of all over the place towards the end.
I fizzled out.
I mean, I don't love Kanye.
Yeah, I did too.
I like his music a lot. As a person, I'm like, he's a bit of a mess.
Yeah.
But music-wise,
Do you think it's? How do you think it is with someone like that who? Do you think he's got the right support around him without going too deep? Do you think he's obviously in some sort of like state at the moment, or maybe he's coming out of it? But like, fuck me, man. When you're that famous and you're that rich, do you reckon you just deny all sorts of like help and stuff?
Well, yes,
you just be like, I don't need this. Yeah, and like you say, yes men are surrounding him.
From what I saw from the documentary, it seems like a lot of people. There's like a few kind of standouts that are decent, but there's like a few standouts that are good, and then like maybe 10 other people that would just kind of agree. So that's gonna kind of drown out the voices that are saying you shouldn't do this, and just kind of egg him on.
I think he's like had a group of hype men that just sort of gas him up to do anything.
It doesn't actually kind of take a step back and like, oh, you need to get help with this. Or
it's like, is this a good thing to do? Is this the right decision?
Yeah.
But I think I still admire him, to be fair, especially what he did with the streetwear and stuff like that.
So he couldn't buy his collabs.
Going back to fashion, like he's done bits like for the.
He has Nike shoes. He's got his Yeezys as well. His Balenciaga stuff. His Gap stuff right now.
Yeah, that stuff is questionable, man.
Yeezy's his own brand, isn't it? But is that still? Is it like it's under Adidas?
Yeah, it's under Adidas. Yeah,
that's pretty nuts.
But it sounds like they give him like basically full creative freedom because
that's why he left Nike.
Yeah, it's for that reason.
Yeah,
and then now he's gone back. Well, sorry, gone to Adidas the last like couple of years. But yeah, it seems like he got a lot more kind of creative freedom.
The rise of those shoes, though.
Yeah, everyone hated them initially. I remember when they first came, people were like, "Oh, so ugly," but they bought them because of hype, and now like people love them. Like, I initially really didn't like them, and now like the really bulky ones, I'm like, if they were going, I'll be like, yeah, should I buy a pair? It's weird.
What were you wearing before that? Around that time?
Vans, I think.
Vans, skinny jeans.
Yeah, skinny jeans and Vans. Like the 350. I remember when the 350s came out, and it was like the holy grail shoe. Like everyone wanted them, everyone needed them. I ended up getting a pair a bit later on, just because. Like as a fashion photographer at the time, I shot so many pairs of streetwear fits with Yeezys in them that it was kind of like that unattainable thing. Like I'd rock up to shoots in Vans and a Next t-shirt or something like that, like a plain black Next t-shirt, and I'd be shooting outfits that were like $2,000 or like because at the time Yeezys then were going for like what £500-600 like resale. So yeah, it was ridiculous. So as soon as they became, because I remember he like made a statement saying like, I want everyone to be able to buy a pair of Yeezys, or I want to make Yeezys like attainable for everyone. And now I feel like he's actually done that, because you can buy Yeezys for like
they're pretty
for not that much now. Some of them anyway. But when he first released the all white 350s, and they were like the more attainable one, he did like he released way more than he's ever released before. I got a pair of them, even though they were like, I know these are going to kill Yeezys, but just because like I've shot so many pairs of them, and then for me they were like the shoe that I couldn't get but really wanted. Yeah. Now that they're dying out, I'm just going to get a pair. Ended up selling them a few years later, but I was gassed to get them.
The life of the reseller.
Indeed.
Nice.
The reseller didn't quite resell.
I think that's the time there to wrap it, boys.
Yeah.
I think we've done pretty well. We've discussed a range of shit.
I feel like I haven't stopped talking.
Yeah, we've gone through a lot of stuff.
I think it's a nice podcast for us to have. I've wanted to like have this kind of podcast for a while, where we actually just talk about stuff that isn't too camera related.
It's good. It's quite cool.
But it's cool to actually just talk about
random fashion. Stuff.
And we all kind of share this interest, and I'm sure a lot of people who will listen do too.
Yeah.
And if they don't, well, I hope they enjoy it.
It's going to be quite interesting, actually, because I feel like when you talk about fashion or music or something like that, you can rattle a lot of people very quickly.
Because I know a bit, but not loads. Some people are like, "Whoa, that's wrong."
If there is anyone listening who actually fancies coming on for a chat about fashion or anything like that,
come on the podcast.
Come into the Lion's Den.
Tell me I'm inaccurate, because I probably am, but tell me to my face or in the comments below.
Yes.
If you're watching on YouTube or LinkedIn or wherever you're watching.
There we go. Thanks everyone for listening or watching.
Thank you.
Thank you.